You ready? Members, could you like to join me in our opening prayer, please? Almighty God, the source of knowledge and understanding, guide the minds of those who are about to take counsel together on matters concerning this county, that in their debate and in their decisions, they may faithfully discharge the duties of their office and promote the health, the safety, and well-being of those they seek to serve. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you, members. Fellow councillors, officers and members of the public who are listening in via the Zoom webcast, welcome to our council meeting this evening. I'd particularly like to welcome Councillor Stephen Lambert in his first meeting of the council following his Uppingham by-election. Welcome, Stephen. Before we get to the agenda proper, I'd like to remind members to please ensure your microphone is switched on for the benefit of the webcast and recording. Thank you. Now I will hand over to the Chief Executive to chair the first item.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 1, election of Chairman of the Council. Please can I have nominations for the Chairman of the Council for the municipal year 2022-23. Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I would like to propose that Councillor Dale continues in office and thank him for the work he's done over the past year.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Oxley. Do I have any other nominations? All those in favour of Councillor Dale, please raise your hand.
I was going to go again, Chair. Yeah. 21.
Thank you. All those against? And abstentions?
3. Is Councillor Dale also abstaining?
I'll abstain.
Yeah. 4 abstentions, Mark.
Thank you. Councillor Dale is duly appointed.
Thank you very much. Just a quick word, members. Thank you very much for re-electing me. It is with great pleasure, great pride that I hold this position on as Chairman of Rutland County Council, and I hope that in the last year I carried out my duties in a fair-handed manner, and I hope that I'll be able to do so in the next year coming. And thank you for your vote of confidence in me. Thank you. Right. Let's go. Item 2 is the election of Vice Chairman of the Council. Please can I have nominations for the Vice Chairman of the Council for the 22-23 municipal year? Nominations? Yes.
Chairman, I appreciate it's a long way down here.
Sorry.
I'd like to propose Nick Beggy, Councillor Beggy, for Vice Chair.
Thank you. A seconder?
I would like to
Fox.
second that, please.
Thank you. Have we any other nominations? No? All those in favour?
Twenty, Chair.
Against?
2, Chairman.
Abstentions? 4.
So the motion is carried, Chairman. Apologies, that was 19 votes in favour.
Congratulations, Nick. Did you want to say anything, Nick? So item 3, apologies. Have we any apologies for this evening?
Chairman, we have received apologies from councillor Hemsley, therefore council is voting to 25 this evening.
Thank you. Chairman's announcements. Councillor Hemsley has asked me to read out the following statement on his behalf. I have remained true to my principles and my integrity with the decision I have recently taken to become a non-aligned independent. Over the weekend, I have received overwhelming support from within the local and national community for taking this stand on the position that Rutland is continually left in regarding funding and the exception that leaders need to lead from the front by example. It is with great sadness, therefore, that I believe I no longer have the continued support of most members. I sincerely hope that you find a solution to get government to listen, and furthermore, I would strongly encourage many of you to listen more closely to our residents as they elected you to represent them. We are here to serve Rutland, not to fight over leadership at this critical time. On this basis, I am stepping down as leader effectively immediately. I will remain as a county councillor while I consider my future. Thank you. I would also like to make the following announcement. Since the last meeting of the council, I've attended the Lord Lieutenant of Rutland's Parish engagement event at the castle and the Queen's Award for Enterprise Awareness event also at the council. I would also like to take the opportunity to inform members that it is intended to summon a special meeting of council on the 27th of June in order to appoint a Freeman of the county. Further details will be sent by governance following the meeting. Two thank yous. Could I firstly thank Oliver for all his work that he's put in since 2018. It's not been an easy ride for him, and I'd just like to convey our thanks to him. And also I would like to thank last year's High Sheriff, David Wood, for all his service during this recently completed year. He did us proud. He did a lot of work. He went around every village in the county, which is no mean task, and he represented us very finely indeed. So I'd like to register our thanks to David, please. Announcements from Head of Paid Services, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Two announcements. I'd like to announce the resignation of Ian Rizal as councillor for Oakham South. We also have an urgent item related to the election of a new leader, and I recommend that the chairman take this after the declaration of interest.
I'm ruling that this item of urgent business be dealt with after declarations of interest. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? No. Urgent item. I will now invite Councillor Stevenson to introduce her item and ask for a seconder.
Thank you very much, Chair. Following Councillor Hemsley's resignation today, I propose that the council should hold a leadership election immediately, and I look for a seconder.
Councillor Payne. I saw Councillor Payne first. Members, anybody got anything to say? Councillor Oxley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A week is a long time in politics is a much used adage and is certainly true for where we find ourselves at the moment. This time last week, there were 9 Conservatives, 7 Independent and Green Group, 4 Lib Dems, 4 Together for Rutland, 1 Labour and 1 non-aligned. Tonight, there are 7 Independent and Green Group, 6 Conservatives, 5 Lib Dems, 4 Together for Rutland, 1 Labour and 3 non-aligned. And so the Independent and Green Group are the largest group on the council, but no one group has a majority. And tonight there are only 3 members in the cabinet following the announcement from Councillor Hemsley. So no one group has a majority. The responsibility for bringing all this back on an even keel falls to us, the Independent and Green Group. And that point was stressed when I met with the Chief Exec, Mark Andrews and Marie, our monitoring officer, last week, following the latest round of resignations from the Conservative group. As the leader of the largest group, I've spent the last 3 days working with my deputy Rosemary Powell, talking to the other group leaders and relevant officers to try and get a consensus among all of us as to the best way forward. And it's a challenge which I believe we have risen to. What I'm proposing, therefore, is an alliance cabinet with Councillor Stevenson as the leader, with the rest of the executive made up of the elected members with whom we have reached a joint consensus. And so I would like to formally propose that Councillor Stevenson be elected the leader of this council.
Yes, before we do that, though, we have to agree to have the election. Yeah. Yeah, has anybody else got anything to say before I go to the vote? No? So all in favour of the election for lead?
Yeah, that's unanimous, Chairman.
Unanimous, thank you. So that's carried. Yeah. So I now invite nominations for leader of the council. Thank you.
My nomination stands as per my previous statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to read it again?
Yes. No,
I'll read
no,
it again.
no.
No, all right.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Payne. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Waller?
I don't wish to make a nomination, but I do wish to make a statement in respect to what Councillor Oxley said, if I may do so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you speak up a bit? Sorry.
Yeah, I would just like to make it clear for the benefit of those in this room and listening to this meeting that as leader of the Liberal Democrat group, I was not consulted over the weekend about any future arrangements. I was telephoned and told what had been decided by Councillor Oxley, but in discussion with my group, we felt that whilst we totally acknowledge that Councillor Oxley's group is the largest, and indeed would have expected that group to put forward a candidate for leader, given that they're the largest group, we were not prepared to be told how we would behave by Councillor Oxley. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I did speak to Councillor Waller, as mentioned, and I asked her to get back to me once she'd spoken to her group as to what her thoughts were on what I had just told her, and she didn't get back to me. She didn't give me the opportunity to talk. And now, so what she is saying is actually doesn't bear that much basis on reality. I did give her the opportunity to come back to me and talk to me, and she didn't.
Point of personal information. Councillor Oxley rang me when I was in the middle of a luncheon engagement. I did explain this. We did not agree that I would get back to him. Had we agreed I would get back to him, I would have done so. I did give him my initial reactions, which in fact was supported by my group. One of us
Thank you. I
has
think, yeah, we've heard.
Any other nominations?
Have we got any other nominations? No. So Councillor Stevenson has been nominated. All those in favour?
Surely we should have some debate over this.
Well,
There's no other nominations.
So if I, sorry,
You can speak. Yes, of course you can.
does he want to speak in the debate?
Sorry.
Does he want to speak on the proposal?
Do you want to nominate
Or
somebody?
does he want to speak on the?
I'm disappointed we can't actually have comment on what has been a deal that's been done behind closed doors over the weekend by some individuals. I
Yeah,
think-
you can speak on the proposal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to make these comments. I'll keep my remarks very short. I find the proposed cabinet very acceptable as an alliance within this chamber. I think that will be announced in due course, so I'll leave that. However, I cannot accept that the Conservatives take a role as leader of this particular cabinet. This looks to me, and I suspect despite all the nice words we will hear, that in fact the Conservatives are still clinging on to power at all costs. And it's the Conservatives cabinet under a different name. I would much prefer that the largest political group, the Independents, put forward a member. But I understand Councillor Oxley, for personal reasons, doesn't want to do that. However, I did have conversations with Councillor Stevens over the weekend, and she made it clear that she wanted a competition. It now appears that that's not going to be the case, and a deal's been done behind closed doors, a fait accompli, I think, as Councillor Waller has indicated. I therefore cannot accept Councillor Stevens in this role, and I'll vote against it. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to come back?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Brown, for being candid as ever. To make it absolutely clear, I feel that I have the skills to lead this council with a cabinet that is truly representative of our chamber, the political landscape as it is. Those of you who have worked with me for over a decade will have seen me chair cross-party task and finish groups. You will have seen me chair lots and lots of community groups. And most recently, working as a team, I've set up Rutland Climate Action, where I would say the majority representation is actually from other groups within this council chamber. I would absolutely hope that those groups would know that my party politics are absolutely left at the door. I've represented views that I don't necessarily support myself, but I've represented those because those are the consensus. This is our county council. Every single member, I would love to be proud of our county council, and we can do that together, but unity is absolutely key. This cabinet isn't a Conservative cabinet. It is a cabinet of alliance that represents our current county council. We have a vision, our future Rutland vision, which we now need to push forwards and deliver through our corporate plan. We need to produce our local plan. We can do that with an alliance cabinet and working cross-chamber. Our county, our vision, our pride in Rutland. I'm confident standing to be the leader. If I didn't think that was possible, I most certainly would not have put myself forward or indeed allowed Councillor Oxley to do. Obviously, it is up to the chamber to decide, and I will finish there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley.
Just a point of information. It's been said several times this evening that the decision has been taken behind closed doors. I've actually been working very closely with all group leaders. In fact, I spoke to Councillor Brown 3 times today on the telephone. I've spoken to Councillor Waller. I've spoken to Councillor Stevenson. In fact, one time my telephone, there's 3 people waiting to talk to me. It has not been done behind closed doors. I've been working very closely with all group leaders, and the group leaders, as I understand it, have been talking to all their group. I've been talking to my group. They've been fully informed of what's been happening. I've got reams and reams and reams of emails, telephone exchanges, and WhatsApp messages. This all kicked off on Thursday. Can I just remind you, after the election, we had 3 resignations on Thursday. Today is Monday. We've had between Thursday and Monday to reach an agreement. And I believe that all the hard work that Rosemary and I have put in to talking to all the group leaders whose work it is to trickle down to their members and get feedback to me and Rosemary, which I can then feed to everybody else, has worked. And that came over in the message that I put today. So I would strongly urge members to recognise the fact that we have to work together. We have a job to do, and the only way we're going to do that is if we work together.
Councillor Payne, do you want to come back?
You seconded.
You seconded the motion. Did you want to come back? Don't want to drop you in it. Okay.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? Councillor Powell. No.
Thank you, Chair. I've been a councillor since 2019. I was elected as an independent. I will always be an independent and I stand by my principles. I have looked in quite horror at some of the things that have been going on here in this council in terms of disagreements and spats across the way. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in collaboration. We're never going to agree on everything. That is the nature, but we need to work together. I think an alliance cabinet is the best way forward. I'm thinking, who are the people who can step up, who have the skills to do the various jobs, and that's what we should be looking at the moment. And I believe that Councillor Stevenson, having been deputy leader, has the skills to lead, but it will be in an alliance cabinet. And that's what we have to do at this stage to make this work. Fellow councillors, we have got to make this work. We can't carry on in this position. There's been, obviously a lot of changes during these 3 years nationally, things that have been imposed on us, but also within this council. We cannot continue like this. So I'd urge that we need to support an alliance cabinet. We've got 10 months until the next election. We need to make it work for the residents of Rutland. And I urge you that this at the moment is the way forward, that we need to take this step now, and we need to all support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey and then Councillor Walters.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarity, Councillor Oxley, up until 7 o'clock tonight, there was actually 4 members still in the cabinet. I can clarify, I was working on the health portfolio on urgent business this morning. I appreciate my resignation from the Conservative group for the reasons I have given, meant that it was likely that I was removed from, I stood down from cabinet, which is, as I said, that was something I knew would happen. As I stand by some of my comments, I do hope as a chamber that we can begin to work together. I think all of us need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and the way we conduct ourselves. We were elected for the people to run this council. And I can safely say, on reflection, if we look back, I think we all need to have a real think about how we've done for the last 3 years. We've got 10 months left of our state and of our term. And so far, I don't think the history of this term will go down very well. Thank you.
Councillor Walters.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree absolutely. We need a rainbow alliance, I think Councillor Waller once called it, on cabinet. What concerns me is the public perception and what is going to happen going forwards. I find it very difficult to support a Conservative shoe-in for a resigned Conservative leader of this council. At the risk of upsetting my colleagues on my own side of the chamber, I'm somewhat disappointed we are not standing someone against Councillor Stevenson, so that everyone can have a vote and say what they really think. And if that means Councillor Stevenson wins, so be it. But I think it's in the public interest that such a vote is held, and I wish someone would be nominated from this side of the chamber, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. If I'm not mistaken, people are talking about this alliance cabinet, but in fact, I haven't actually heard any names mentioned. And I think it's appropriate that is given to all members and the public before a vote is taken. Just for information purposes, I appreciate that it will be up to the leader to decide, but presumably there is a cabinet in place that the nominee for this position has already got. Otherwise, we wouldn't be standing here this evening.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. Whatever political persuasion, it doesn't matter whether it's Conservative, Independent, Liberal, Democrat. The messages we've heard tonight about working together are absolutely key. We have some huge challenges coming up. Local plan, we've got a big financial deficit that we need to solve next year. We've got the corporate plan and the future Rutland plan to develop and take forward for our residents. I think it's laudable that Lucy has put herself up in the firing line to bring together an alliance cabinet, and we will hear who they are. And she's put herself forward. Nobody else has stepped forward. She has my support, and I think it's quite brave of her to do that. And I think we should all work together and admire that and support her. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCartney.
Refuse that nomination. I've been asked that question repeatedly over the weekend. I do not think it would, I think it would actually do me a serious injury as far as my health is concerned. I do not have the health, I do not have the strength to become the leader, which is why I have refused every time someone has asked me. And it just not just Councillor McCartney, sorry, my brain. Well, there you go, you see. I'm sorry. I could not do the job to the detriment of
There's one more there.
Yeah, Councillor Baines.
Mr. Chairman, those of you who are parents know that we were put on this earth in order to embarrass our children. I'll try not to, and quite clearly, most of you are well aware that Lucy is my daughter. Lucy had served on the cabinet. I can tell you that she kept a Chinese wall between what went on in the cabinet and what she was prepared to tell me. That is a measure of her integrity. I think tonight we have heard all this business about things going on behind scenes. My telephone has been hot. Frankly, it doesn't matter. What matters is what is said publicly in this chamber, face to face. I can look round and look at you all in the face, and I will defend my position, and I hope that you feel the same. I'm not interested in backroom things. I accept what both Councillor Oxley and Councillor Dale had said. They were, I think Her Majesty said, recollections and opinions differ. But members, we have talked about unity, and I'm entirely supportive of the alliance approach or rainbow approach, whatever you like to call it, because we have got 10 months to turn around what has been a dysfunctional council to some extent. It's up to you, members. And obviously I am biased, but you have got somebody who has served in the cabinet, served as deputy leader, served on scrutiny panels, and is well respected in her ward. There are others who could claim the same thing. We're absolutely fine, but let's stop all this acrimonious debate and let's get on with what we really need to be doing, which is those major issues which are facing us over the next 10 months. Devolution, levelling up, local plan, health concerns. We've got enough on our plates without bickering. Chairman, I hope we are about to move to the vote, and I hope you will give the support that the person prepared to put herself forward leader deserves. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McCartney.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm pleased
Councillor Brown said what he said, because I think we do need to know who's going to be on the cabinet. And I harangued Councillor Brown something terrible 2 years ago for not being open nor transparent enough in what was going on then. I think he's possibly reflecting on that now. I'm pleased to see that. I would like to see the same lesson learnt here now by Cabinet. I would like to know what we are voting for, exactly what we are getting. When Councillor Paul Brown stood in Rushcliffe many years ago, about 130, I think, wasn't it, Paul? He stood on principle against Ken Clark, who is also a man of principle, who was booted out of the Conservative Party by a leadership intent on being seen as strong. I don't know whether that's how we see them or not. I would simply counsel the current leadership or proposed leadership here not to quite make the same mistake and reflect on a little bit more shared wisdom within the room and gauge the feeling of what you've got here, rather than try to lead with the strength that we've been lacking for the last 2 or 3 years.
I think, Councillor McCartney, we have to go to the vote first, and then the leader will then nominate her cabinet. Is that right? Yeah. So, members, can we have all those in? Who wants to speak? Oh, Councillor Bailey, sorry.
I didn't see you, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm absolutely for alliance and unity, but without knowing the makeup of the cabinet, I feel I have no choice but to abstain from this vote. I do not know enough information.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. There's been a lot of talk about infighting and factions tonight, and how that's gone on over the previous couple of years that I've been a councillor, and everyone's going on about how we need to work together. But it seems from the conversation we've had in the last 10 minutes that we're descending into infighting and factions almost immediately again. We need to put our differences behind us and get on with running Rutland with Councillor Stevenson and her experience at the helm. Let's just get on with it.
Thank you. Right, members, then. Well, Councillor Stevenson has been proposed and seconded as the new leader of the council. All those in favour, please.
Chairman.
18 against.
Five. Yeah.
Could I have the against again, please? 5.
4, 5.
5 abstentions.
1.
2 abstentions. So Councillor Stevenson is duly elected as leader of this council.
Short adjournment?
Sorry?
Do you want a short adjournment?
Did-
Do you want a short adjournment or should we keep going?
Do you want to?
Adjourn for 5 minutes.
Yes, we could. Yeah, it's a bit early, but go on. Yeah, go on. We'll have an adjournment for 5 minutes. Let you get your breath and come back.
They want to keep going.
Hmm?
They want to keep.
You want to keep going, do you? All right, well, keep going then. I don't mind. Yes.
So item 7.
Yeah, item 7, notification by the leader of appointments to the executive, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to those of you who have voted for me. Those who couldn't support me, I absolutely understand why, and I would absolutely like to underscore that I don't take it personally. I hope that within 3 months you will be happy with the decision that has been taken by this council. I would now like to go ahead and mention my alliance cabinet. I rather like the idea of a rainbow cabinet, actually, because it offers us hope for the future. This cabinet that I'm announcing, the aim is for a balance of continuity and balancing the current political landscape of this council whilst also asking people to join with me who have considerable experience. So therefore, councillors Oxley, Powell and Waller, councillors Payne and Wilby, I would be very grateful if you could serve on this cabinet. Our first meeting is at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The first job will be to look at the portfolios and check that we are happy as they sit in terms of what comes under each umbrella. I also want to discuss, please, how we engage with all 27 members. This isn't a 6-person council, it's a 27-member chamber. I know that there are things that the previous executive didn't quite get right, we know that. I hope with the new cabinet we can move forward. So as I said, when I responded to Councillor Brown, this is our county council, our county council. We have a vision to deliver for our county, and above all, I want everybody to be proud of what we get achieved in the next 10 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In this council chamber, and many of the factions within the Conservative group, because for some of us, Conservatives included, we are political parties, and so we would expect to oppose, in our case, because we were the smallest party much of the time, but oppose constructively. And I think everybody in this chamber will acknowledge that we have been constructive in our opposition to things. I have been very uncomfortable with, as Councillor Gordon Brown said, the discussions behind closed doors. I was particularly uncomfortable being told on Sunday the role I was going to have, which isn't in fact what Councillor Stevenson has just indicated, it was something different. I did have a number of conversations with Councillor Stevenson, but I made it quite clear that as a political party, what I would commit to would be the decision of my group. We have come to the conclusion that not knowing what the portfolios would be, we can't sign up to me going into the cabinet. I did indicate to Councillor Stevenson this afternoon that we needed clarity. We feel bruised, as many of you do, about what's gone on in this council chamber over the last few years, with the exception, of course, of our newest councillor, who hasn't been bruised by it yet.
And hopefully won't be.
And hopefully won't be. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We don't want to enter into anything that we are not clear what it is we are entering into. I think it is very, I totally take what Councillor Oxley said, that a lot of this was thrust upon us at 10 o'clock on Thursday night. But I think it is very unfortunate that we are not giving ourselves time to pause and reflect on that as a whole council before making decisions about cabinet and so on. So with deep regret, and it isn't anything personal, Councillor Stevenson, I have to decline your offer.
Councillor Stevenson.
I have to say I'm very disappointed by that, Councillor Waller, because your experience, your knowledge on so many things, not least local government, will be sorely missed. However, Councillor Waller, I do hope that I will be able to still talk with you, benefit from your support and guidance, because please rest assured, Council, this is a collaborative effort. We are all in this together, and we've got a heck of a lot of talent in this room, even if some of that talent doesn't necessarily support me at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think my comments earlier may have been misconstrued. I fully support an alliance group on the cabinet. I even supported the individuals on the cabinet. I think it's the best selection that we could have with all other circumstances taken into account. That was not the issue I was raising earlier in the debate, the previous debate, and I wish the Cabinet all the best in the coming weeks and months. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say, as an independent and having been named in that list, and this isn't a discussion about the list at the moment, I'm very honoured, and I would hope that we could work differently and collaboratively as a cabinet and actually make some progress on this. And I'm prepared to be flexible and work constructively with all members. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as one of the longest serving members of this council, I've been on since 2003. 19 years I've been a member of this council, and it is a great honour for me to be asked to join Lucy's cabinet. As I said earlier, we spent many hours, in fact, hours and days discussing this across all political groups, irrespective of what people have said this evening. My thumb, I have osteoarthritis. My thumb is very painful. I'm on painkillers because of my thumb, because I've been holding my phone to my ear. And I've had 3 phone calls coming, waiting while I've been speaking to the 4th person. That shows you how busy it's been for me trying to get this organised. And what has been at the heart of it has been my desire to see us get out of this political arguing, political bickering, personalities, cliques. We need no more. We need to go forward. And that's why we have decided this evening to put all our weight. I could have said, yes, I'll become leader. I could have done, because this, as leader of the largest group, it's in my gift. Instead, I chose to speak to all group leaders to find the best people for the job. The most experienced, those who haven't got full-time jobs. Many people around this chamber have got 1.5 jobs, which they're trying to keep under control. And that was the motivation. That's the sole motivation. And I'm deeply hurt that individuals have been trying to accuse me of doing this behind closed doors. I've only done it out of my love for Rutland, which has been my home for 30 years. And I want that to be put plain and straight. And I do not want to be leader. I have been asked repeatedly, and I said I did not want to be leader. And that's all I want to say. And I want us to work together. 10 months, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We need to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you. So those nominations, those appointments have been duly noted. Review of the Constitution. Who's going to read that? Who's reading it? It says the leader.
Thank you very much. We have got the review of the Constitution in front of us. The decision recommendations are outlined. I won't read those out. I am mindful that I've only just become leader chair. So what may happen if there are questions about this, I will, I'm afraid, have to absolutely defer to the person who knows. I am content with these. I know that they have been through the Constitution working group, and so therefore I shall move swiftly to asking if there are any questions.
Thank you. I'll have to have a seconder first, please. Councillor Oxley. Members, has anybody got Councillor Brown? A. Brown.
Thanks, Chairman. On page 237, public speaking scheme for planning and licensing meetings. Just a point of clarification, because I'm a bit confused by this. Bullet point 4, all Rutland County councillors for the ward where the development is situated in brackets ward member, where the ward member is not a member of the committee. So does that mean that me as a sole ward member in my ward, if I've got a planning issue that I want to speak on, does that preclude me from speaking?
Through you, Chairman.
Yes, sorry.
As a member of the committee, Councillor Brown, in that scenario, you obviously are still on the committee, so you are able to make your contributions during the debate on that item when it's before the committee. Does that clarify the point?
I'm just confused by the wording. That's all. It doesn't seem very clear.
Does it mean that if, for example, there was a planning application in Uppingham, I could speak on it as the ward member at the discretion of the chair? Is that what we're saying?
So the wording Councillor Brown is seeking clarification on purely relates to if the ward member is also on the committee already. So the idea is that because the ward member, if the ward member is on the committee, they can make their contributions at the committee debate stage rather than through the speaking scheme.
Right. You happy with that? Yeah. Anybody else? Councillor Tosen.
Thank you, Chair. It's been brought to my attention, and I'm grateful for this, that the language within is not inclusive. I noticed reference to he or she, and I asked that we could look at changing this to they to be inclusive.
Yes, through you, Chair, the working group have asked that we have inclusive language. So when I do the final edit, that will happen. So I've picked up some of that language, but we will make sure it is written in an inclusive way.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, it has been proposed and seconded. The recommendations are that Council 1 notes the work of the Constitution Review Working Group and thanks its members for reviewing the Constitution and proposing the revisions detailed in the report to ensure legal compliance. 2, agrees to adopt the revised contents of Part 1, Introduction to the Constitution at Annex 1. 3, agrees to adopt the revised Part 2 articles of Annex 2. Agrees to adopt revised Part 3, Responsibility for Functions at Annex 3, including the new terms of reference for the Constitution Commission and the Strategic Overview and Scrutiny Committee agreed by Council on the 11th of April 2022. 5, agrees to adopt the updated terms of reference for the Health and Wellbeing Board at Annex 5 to be substituted into Part 3 of the Constitution. 6, agrees to adopt the revised Part 4 Procedure Rules at Annex 4. And 7, agrees to adopt the revised public speaking for Planning and Licensing Committee at Annex 6 into Part 5 of the Constitution. 8, agrees to remove the following codes from Part 5 and publish them elsewhere on the Council's website: the Counter Fraud Strategy, Whistleblowing Policy, Monitoring Officer Protocol, Scrutiny Function Protocol, and School Governor Protocol. 9, authorises the Monitoring Officer to publish a definitive version of the Constitution, removing track changes, incorrect numbering, editing and formatting errors, with a version history, glossary and index, together with a public guide to the Constitution. All those in favour?
Yes, unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. So now we're on to item 9. The political balance and allocation of
Councillor Walters.
Councillor Walters.
Chairman, could you tell me what we have agreed in terms of agreement to include all councillors or only those in political groups? I thought we had to decide that, and I didn't think it was a positive recommendation. I may be wrong.
All right.
That's the next item, Councillor Walters.
We're on 9 now, aren't we? Yeah. Political balance and allocation of seats to the political groups. This is report number 90/2022, appendices showing the political composition of the council following the by-election last week, and recent announcements were circulated earlier today and copies are available in the chamber. Would the leader like to introduce the report?
Thank you very much, Chair. You will see that we have got a total of 26 at the moment with one vacant seat. My understanding is that the group leaders have assigned who they would like onto which committee. And my understanding is, Chair, that you will lead elections for chairs and things. Or is that done within the committees?
Through you, Chair, the council needs to decide whether or not to use table A or table B.
Right, thank you
So
very much.
Table A will include the non-aligned members and table B will only include. So I don't know if you want to move one of
so
those.
I mean, I would move table A to include the non-aligned, and I would look for a seconder.
Is that
There we go.
Should we just vote on that?
No, we're going to seconder. Oh, go on, Councillor McCartney for a change.
Yeah.
So all in favour of table A?
I think that's unanimous.
Yeah.
Yes,
Unanimous.
Right. So now we're going to take recommendations to different.
Yeah, on the basis of that decision, I will now take recommendations 2 to 5 together. Can I have a proposal? Councillor Stevenson, seconded. Councillor Oxley. That. Where's one? I haven't got
Chairman,
one.
could you just explain that to the rather simple people at the far end of the chamber? What's items 2 to 5 and where are they on the agenda?
So through you, Chairman, we're on item 9.
Thank you.
The council has voted on recommendation 1 that the calculation should include non-aligned members. So table A in the papers that have been circulated should be on your tables. Shows the number of seats allocated to each group rounded, and shows the non-aligned members have 8 seats to be allocated, which you've agreed. You're now being asked to vote on recommendation 2 to approve the allocation in that order, and then recommendation 3 to note the nominations which are set out in Appendix B of your papers. So there are names there in most, we haven't got we haven't got all the names from the non-aligned members yet, as yet. But you're being asked to note those nominations, and where we have non-aligned members, make those appointments.
Thank you, Chair, for that explanation.
Okay, thank you. So we had a proposal and a second, didn't we? Yeah. So 2, approves the subsequent allocation of seats to political groups as determined by the vote on political balance calculation as set out in Appendix B. 3, notes the political group nominations for membership of the council's committees as set out in Appendix B. 4, approves the appointments of non-aligned members to committees as set out in Appendix B. 5, authorises the Strategic Overview and Scrutiny Committee to co-opt 5 members of educational matters only in accordance with the Constitution and the Local Government Act 2000. All those in favour? Unanimous.
I think that's unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. Thank you, councillors, for that. With regard to the chairs, I will take each committee in turn and I will ask for a proposer and seconder for each nomination. Take a vote on each body and then proceed to the next body. First is the Audit and Risk Committee. Can I have a proposer and seconder for nomination, please? Councillor Oxley.
And from my group, I actually have Councillor Alan Walters has asked to be considered for that post.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Webb. Any other nominations? Councillor Brown, G Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Fox for this position.
Have we got a seconder? Councillor Beggy. Any other nominations? Do the members get a chance to speak or not? Do either of them nominees want to speak? Councillor Fox.
I served on the Audit and Risk Committee for 2 years before going on to GIR. Although I have a small business background, I have a master's degree in business administration, so I'm fully aware of how corporate companies and local authorities operate. I've had 2 years' experience in chairing the GIR Commission, Scrutiny Commission. We are in a very difficult situation at RCC with a massive shortfall predicted due to the rising costs and lack of funding from central government. This is why audit and risk is so important. I therefore feel that I will be the right person to chair this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Only briefly, Chairman, I don't think it's a competition on numbers, or would say 4 years on audit and risk and a year as vice chair, 11 years on the council, chairing the scrutiny commission and everything else. I think it's important that it's someone who is genuinely independent. I think it's important that it's someone who is excellent with chairing skills, and I rest my case on that.
Elected. Next is the Planning and Licensing Committee. Can I have a proposer and seconder? Oh, proposer first, sorry.
I'd like to propose Councillor Beggy.
Have a seconder? Councillor Fox. Any other nominations? Can I have a seconder? Councillor Cross. Where are we? Councillor Beggy and Haynes. All those in favour of Councillor Beggy?
On a point of order, I believe if there are two nominees, we are allowed to
Yes,
make
sorry.
a
Yeah,
speech.
we'll go.
Thank you.
If you'd like to speak then first.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, I have tried to chair in what I would call structured informality. In other words, I keep to the rules, but I do want, particularly in this committee, which is not a political one, I give people the opportunity, if they wish to take it, to voice their opinions. And the way that I have chaired, I think in this inclusive approach, for instance, and I will give you two recent examples. One, the rules changed over enforcement. Before, we had enforcement coming to the committee. It was a long drawn out process. It took a month because that was the general thing between committees. And ward members quite reasonably were concerned that under new arrangements, it would simply be the chairman's decision along with the officers. I made it perfectly clear from the outset that I wanted to keep members informed, and therefore I introduced a post-formal meeting, and I think that has worked, I hope, very well. It is not strictly, it would be in my power not to do that. I chose to try and involve the whole committee. I would also say that I have been criticised, and I'm well aware of it, for chairing overlong meetings. And it is, on the face of it, a perfectly reasonable comment. What I would say that if a member of the public particularly, who may well be inexperienced in public speaking, has taken the trouble to come to that meeting and make a case, then I'm not going to stick rigidly to 3 minutes if that person takes 5. There has been, and not on the part of members of the public on the whole, there has been an occasion or two in the past year when people have spoken at great length. Members, you have just voted on item 7 in that last agenda item, precisely to remove that cumbersome likelihood of overlong meetings. I think we have already addressed that. And again, I have always tried to be sympathetic toward members who want an item bringing forward where officers might feel that it could be dealt with in a delegated way. And I think that I don't agree every time, but I think members around the table will know that I have tried as far as possible to do that. I should like to be able to continue. Obviously, I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't, and I would ask for your support. Thank you very much indeed, Chairman.
Councillor Beggy.
Thank you, Chair. I've served on planning for a number of years and I've taken the role extremely seriously, and I see this as the key to the future of our county. I've been Vice Chair of Planning and Council, and I chair several external organisations as well as within my professional life. Today, more than ever, we're in difficult times for planning, and we need to clearly remember our role. Our role is to make planning judgments based on material considerations. Planning must be carefully managed to ensure we as a county retain control of future planning decisions. However, I do understand the DNA of the county, and those that know me have the county at my heart. It is more than retaining our rurality, which is very important, but ensuring through careful development for the right houses in the right places, we deliver a future for the whole of the community and for future generations. Those who are lucky enough to live here today are simply custodians, and I want future generations to not only enjoy our county, but be able to afford to live and prosper here. It is a fine balance which I am keen to manage. It's important that we debate and make decisions in a professional manner in a very public forum, and it is key any chair encourages debate and retains control, so decisions are made rationally and not simply on the emotions of the room. Planning is key to our future, and I believe I have the energy, skills and commitment to make a real difference. I hope, as Councillor Stevenson eloquently said in her speech, this should not be a political decision, but a pragmatic one on who is best for the role. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So could go back to the vote now. So we'll go back to the vote now. All in favour of Councillor Beggy? Twelve. All in favour of Councillor Baines? 13. So Councillor Baines is re-elected as chairman of planning. Thank you. Any more councillors?
Strategic overview.
Oh, yeah. Last is a strategic overview and scrutiny committee. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Have a proposer. Councillor Burrows.
I'd like to propose Councillor Waller.
Have a seconder, Councillor McCartney. Any other nominations? No. Councillor Waller, you're duly elected. Thank you. Programme of meetings 22-23. This this report number 91, 2022. I'll invite the leader to speak to the report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I mean, it is as is. It is the programme of meetings for 22.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, councillor Bill.
I'm sure there's an explanation and it may have been covered, but the fire authority has not been covered this evening.
coming up.
That's coming
Oh,
up.
sorry.
No,
I
this
thought
is-
you right, sorry.
we're
Beg your
still-
pardon, sorry. He's dropped it here. Don't blame him. It's all right.
Sorry,
Beg your pardon. Should know better.
councillor Stevens.
well, it is as is. You've got the programme of meetings there. Happy to take questions, but I can't really imagine there would be any.
Just move it.
Oh, yes, I would like to propose the programme of meetings. Thank
And
you
the
very
seconder,
much.
have a seconder, councillor Oxley. All those in favour? Unanimous.
That's agreed. That's carried.
Yeah, that's carried, sorry. 11, appointments to outside organisations, working groups and fora. This is the report number 92, 2022. An update appendix has been circulated. I'll invite the leader to speak to the report.
Yes, Chair. Now, Councillor Bull has just mentioned the Fire Authority, which I believe is the one that there may be 2 nominees for. Was my understanding, but the rest were all sorted and could be taken on block. So I mean, I'm in your hands, Chair, if you want to do
Yep,
Fire
no, that's
Authority
fine.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we take.
So we do the Fire Authority
No, no,
first.
do the uncontested.
Yeah.
one. So we'll-
So all the other bodies are uncontested, all in favour.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just point out that we no longer have an armed forces champion?
Yes,
come
good
back to that.
point.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to it then. We'll do all the others. We'll do all the others first, okay? So all the other bodies, all in favour? This is all the other bodies, not the Fire Authority or
I
the
think it's unanimous, Chair.
Army.
It's not.
Yeah,
No,
is
it's
that
not
unanimous?
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's unanimous.
Yeah, I'll take it as unanimous, Chairman, but there were hands coming up and down.
Yeah.
So that's agreed. So now it's the combined-
So we've got 2 nominations for the place on the Fire Authority.
Who are the nominations?
There, councillor Ainsley and councillor. No, that's. Crumlin. Yeah,
Oh, right, the last one.
yeah.
The last one. So we've got.
So councillor Ainsley and councillor Bull. So councillor Ainsley and councillor Bull, I'll take you in alphabetical order.
Chairman,
Sorry.
sorry to interrupt, but as a matter of something or other to do with procedure, could we have it explained about proportionality in the Fire Authority, please, before we vote?
Yes, through you, Chairman, the Combined Fire Authority it comprises members from 3 nominating bodies. And the convention is that the members of the Fire Authority proportionally represent the political membership of those 3 authorities altogether. So the clerk is asking for a Conservative nomination to ensure that the Combined Fire Authority is politically balanced when you take into account the nominating authorities. They're not insisting on that, but their preference is that it would be a Conservative member if at all possible. But if this council wishes to appoint another person, they will then adjust the proportionality and they'll ask one of the other nominating bodies to change their membership. But that's the advice from the clerk this morning.
Councillor Ainsley, I'll let you come in.
That wasn't my strict understanding of what the actual response was. I thought the response was that they were happy to change, as long as we stuck to our guns within Conservative until the 15th of June, and then once after that meeting, they're quite happy to change. So I think there's a slight nuance there, isn't there?
Thank you. Is that right?
That's what they said. That's what the clerk said, that in the short term, it would be very helpful, but they're not insisting on it. But in the short term, it would be helpful.
But it was the 15th of June, I think,
15th of
isn't it? Which
June,
isn't
yeah.
that long away at all.
Councillor Brown, G Brown.
Chairman, I know it's not asked for proposal or seconders for these positions. I would certainly propose Councillor Ainsley. And in particular, I would propose that he's not appointed until the 16th of June on the basis that Councillor Bull, who's the current member of the Fire Authority, can go to the AGM, which is happening on that date. And I'm sure Councillor Bull, when he stands up, will make that comment. And that if possible, if Councillor Ainsley is elected this evening, that he is an observer of that meeting to ensure continuity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, right, we've got the two nominees. Councillor Ainsley, do you want to speak on it?
I'll let Councillor Bull speak
Well,
first, I
I
think,
did
and
say-
then I'll speak after him. Thank you.
I did say I'd let you go first, but
I'm quite happy for Councillor
Yeah.
Bull to say his piece, and then I'll follow him immediately. Okay.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Bull been chairman of this for a considerable length of time, and I think it's time for change is really where I'm at. You need to know a little about me. I've been way back in 2002, would you believe? I was actually involved with the fireman strike and actually got trained on the Green Goddesses. So that was an interesting job, particularly hanging back from a ladder. That was just, in any case. I also volunteered for the Red Cross, drove and attended numerous fires, offering family support and worked unsocial hours, and actually engaged with the officers considerably because of this onerous duty of care, which actually is wonderful in principle, but of course the firemen in particular, it does mean that they can't always leave site as quick as they'd like until such times as people have been looked after. So that was the role I played. I also worked closely with the fire services whilst doing the youth justice system. I enjoyed a close relationship whilst sending young offenders to fire service initiatives such as Fatal 4, which actually we did actually do across the fire station only a year or so ago. I think it was, wasn't it, Councillor Bull? And then, and also, of course, we sent our young people across for the fire services experience days. I'm also aware of an initiative that currently is being considered where the fire services are brought under the wing of the Police and Crime Commissioner. And one last point, I could save them a considerable amount of money in costumes because I could immediately double up as Father Christmas when they do the children's presentations. Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Bull.
Yes, well, thank you, Chairman. And I think I should just first of all apologise to you, Chairman and Monitoring Officer. I think I was probably on autopilot. I seem to recall in my days the actual programme was taken last, but that's my excuse. So the Combined Fire Authority, well, members, indeed, you have elected me for the last 3 years of this term to represent the county on the Combined Fire Authority and for some years before. Now, as we've heard in the Monitoring Officer stealing my thunder a little, and I don't mind that, the CFA is comprised of a committee of 17 councillors from Leicester City, Leicestershire and Rutland, with the political groups of Liberal, Labour and Conservative represented. So I am the only member representing Rutland. Now, I have been honoured to be elected by the various political groups within the CFA to be chairman of both the Governance Committee, which handles finance, budgets, and elements of scrutiny, and also the Employment Committee. These are two of the 4 committees that they have. I also sit on the main CFA committee, the exception being the Pensions Committee. This has enabled me to build up a very strong working relationship with all the parties to deliver for Rutland. So what do I mean by that? And I'll give you just a few examples. I have been able to influence the decision that the Oakham station remains active 24/7 for 52 weeks of the year to protect residents, despite being one of the quietest stations of the 20, we are regularly in the bottom 3. Other quiet stations are not manned at night. They run by being called out. Because, as I term it, we are akin to an outpost of what would have been the Roman Empire, and you will understand that when you look at the map of the CFA in Rutland, I have been able to gain agreement that we can man our fire engines with 5 fighters as opposed to 4. Other stations, they have 4. It's basically because of our rurality, and our nearest support is actually Lincolnshire. So in addition, because of our rurality, I've been able to secure the allocation of one of the new rapid response vehicles, which can operate with as few as 2 firefighters. And when we did an analysis of the Uppingham station in particular, it would have covered 55% of all the call-outs. So you will know there's a great more activity, Councillor Oxley and the Uppingham members out of Uppingham. I also work very closely with the cadets of the fire service because they are the future. As shown recently, and I was joined by Councillor Stevenson in a 4-day engagement in the Uppingham station, where I was asked at the end to present prizes. And you will be aware that I have organised various visits to the Oakham and Uppingham stations, and also organised equipment delays in this car park. There is much more that I could tell you, but I am limited by time. What I will say is that I have the vast experience and can utilise all the knowledge that I have to secure the best services for Rutland. I hope I can count on your support to represent this county for a further year, members. Thank you.
So, members, we'll go to the vote. All in favour of Councillor Ainsley? Seven. All in favour of Councillor Bull? 17. So Councillor Bull is elected as our representative on the Fire Authority.
Thank you, members.
We have a vacancy now for the.
It's an executive appointment. It's the leader's appointment.
It's the leader's appointment, is it?
Yes. You don't have to do it.
All right.
Yes.
I've just been notified that the appointments of the Armed Forces champion position is leader's choice. Obviously, I'm not going to make that now because I'd be interested to hear from members. We know that that covenant is something that we are very proud of in Rutland. It's a prestigious and very, very important position. So I'd be pleased to hear from any members who would be interested in that. And of course, not having enough knowledge isn't a reason not to be interested in it. And I'm sure we could source a decent brief and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have no urgent business.
Mr. Chairman. I have a piece of urgent business, but it is private and personal, and it is to do with an officer who will be shortly leaving. May I stand?
You can indeed.
Members, I think we can all agree that we have been served exceptionally well by Marie Rosenthal. She has come into our little county and most diligently looked after us and tweaked our constitution. And she's tweaked me once or twice, and I will greatly miss such tweakings. But seriously, Marie, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank you for your cheerful countenance, for your enthusiasm, for your determination, actually, to get things done your way. And really, I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Chairman. And I hope everybody around here appreciates what Maria's done. We're going to miss you, but apparently I did have a little word before we started, because I don't like to get things too wrong. And you are with us for a few more weeks, and enjoy your little sojourn with us. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also add my own personal thank you for keeping me in order. Thank you. Members, just before we finish, we've had a difficult meeting tonight, and I just hope that we can all now get together and get on and serve Rutland in the best way that we can possibly do, and forget what's gone in the past, and let's carry on for the future of Rutland. Other than that, I'll declare the meeting closed.